Welcome to Lifestyle by Design, helping you solve everyday challenges. I'm Karen Jacobs, an occupational therapist, a professor at Boston University, and a Brookline Rotarian. And here's my co-host.
Hi, and I'm Andrea Calso, Community Relations Coordinator here at Brookline Interactive Group. As always, we choose our show themes based on things that happen in our lives and people we know and things that speak to us that we want you, our community, to know about. So today we're very excited. We have some of my friends on, Michelle and Ellen, and they're here from Speak Out. And I'm really excited for you guys to talk about it because it's really interesting. We're going to talk a lot about storytelling and how that relates to the work that you do. So tell us a little bit more about Speak Out and your role there and your work.
Great. Well, Speak Out is the oldest LGBT Speakers Bureau in the country. We have been going for 42 years.
Wow. Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah. And you can imagine the difference of climate 42 years ago when LGBT people got together and said, we want to help change attitudes. Now we're very fortunate that, you know, the Massachusetts is so progressive and a lot of things have changed here, but there's still quite a need. We do a lot of work in the schools, for example, and you know, bullying is still a huge problem. So we know that the work that we do going out to the schools, the colleges, we go into corporate environments, churches and synagogues, mostly speaking to teens, and you know, just trying to, by telling our personal stories, that we call it telling the truth of our lives, and telling those stories to just give a real personal understanding to the people who are there about what our lives are like.
So so you're sharing these lived experiences, and I'm an occupational therapist, as I mentioned, and we find that lived experiences and sharing narratives are really powerful. So it sounds like what you're doing is the right way to reach people. It sounds like it's so effective. Any stories you want to share with us about sharing stories?
Yeah, I mean, just to build off that, I know that part of your organization is that you do trainings. So you don't just send people out there, okay, talk about your life.
No, of course
There's
not.
a training. So maybe describe for us a little bit what that's like when speakers come and they want to be a part of that.
Yeah, well, we put out a call to anyone who is interested in becoming trained. And even if they're not want to become members of the Speakers Bureau, they can still come in and get the training for doing the speaking out in the community. They may be from other nonprofit organizations, but they want to get our style of training. And we have been doing this so long that we have a good reputation for that. So people come in, and our next training is actually Saturday, November 15th, excuse me, yeah, November 15th. We'll be having it at the Cambridge Friends Meeting House. And people can find information on our website, speakoutboston.org. And it's a really amazing emotional experience, the trainings, don't you find, Michelle? Yeah.
How so? How so are you finding that?
We go in and we train, and we're learning each other's stories, and we're learning our trainer stories, and we're also learning as we're going along any kind of phobias or things that we still have internally we might not know through the training. So when we're asked all of the questions, we're able to answer them, and we're also able to say, well, here's my challenges on these too.
Oh, that's great.
And it bonds everyone together, and it's very emotional, it's very intense, and it creates the family. So we want to go out and do outside activities with each other too, because when we leave there, when we go to speaking engagements, I very rarely will speak with another female. I'll speak with a male, but I very rarely speak with another female in training.
Okay. And how did you come up with the strategy? Is this something that you learned about, or is it something that you've actually created from your own, I guess, idea of how training should be?
Right. Well, I am the current executive director, and I just joined the organization as the ED in May. But I've been a speaker for Speak Out for about 5 or 6 years. and had done some previous work for the organization. So I'm not responsible for this
Creating
wonderful,
it.
yes, creating this wonderful training. But it really was a lot of people at the beginning who figured out this style of training of just being very personal, telling our coming out stories to each other, and also because we do Q&As with all of the audiences that we go to, it's also a training of how to deal with questions, how to deal with difficult questions, how to deal with an audience that maybe doesn't like you because of your identity. So how do you deal in an environment with that to set the right tone, to respond to questions in a positive way, to still make sure that you're connecting with them, even if there's some resistance. So we do a lot of that in the trainings as well. And that's just been developed over the years. Right now we have a wonderful senior trainer, Scott Grady, who has been doing this work with us for a number of years. He's fabulous. And he was trained by another senior trainer before he took on that role. And so it's really been passed down through many generations now. After 40 years, there's been quite a lot of people who have gone through that. In fact, it's really fun when we go out in the community, like going to Pride or something. People will come up to the table and they're like, "Oh my God, I used to speak for Speak Out," you know, and they're like, "God, that must have been 25 years ago. I didn't know you were still around." So yeah, so it's really been an important part of the LGBT community. We're one of the oldest organizations. I don't think we're the oldest, but we're one of the oldest in the Boston area.
Wow. And you mentioned something about going into potentially hostile environments, and I thought that was interesting because I'm wondering, do you always know, like, going into it? I imagine sometimes you might have an idea, or how does that come about, and what are sort of the best practices you've learned about kind of going in cold, I guess, if that's the case.
Know.
We don't always know. Sometimes we do know. Sometimes we'll be told, you can send this speaker, but you can't send this speaker. You can send a lesbian or a gay male, but you cannot send anyone transgender. So we kind of know. Sometimes we don't. What we find out within the audience, that there are very hostile people or people who have very strong beliefs or very strong fears. And that's where we spend a lot of time mentoring each other and a lot of time in the training talking about those difficult questions.
Yeah, so especially, you know, conservative schools. In fact, I just had an example of a school that I was dealing with who said they definitely do not want transgender speakers. And we try and work with our clients because we do feel it's very important. Also, some people say don't send bisexual speakers. And we just work with them so that they can understand the complexity of our community and that it is important to make sure that people hear the stories of all of our community. But sometimes they don't feel their own environment is ready for it yet.
So it sounds like a major goal is education.
Yes.
So over the years you were saying that things have changed, but there's still challenges. What would you say some of those challenges, you know, you described this hostile situation that you might have. What are some of the challenges that you're still seeing that you face?
A lot of miseducation or misunderstanding or myths. And that's part of the reason why we do so much of the engagement is our motto, you can ask us anything you want. You can ask us anything. We may not answer it, but we'll tell you why we won't answer, or we'll explain and educate why. It's not a good idea to ask that out here or to make those comments out in the world. And I find a lot of it is fears, and I think that what I found in my personal life and through speaking engagements is what really breaks that down is the face-to-face. Once you and I know each other, it's really hard to be mean to me. And it's really hard to be mean to her because, oh yeah, I know this person. It breaks down the barriers just one person at a time because you know someone or you've met someone face to face. And sometimes it's putting that person in a situation where they don't understand. For say, I have to choose every day whether to come out or not come out in the world that we live in. My raising children in a same-sex relationship, they had to choose whether or not to come out every day too. And sometimes it's taking and switching that and saying, hi, how are you? How's your wife? And you're like, but I'm married to a man. That's how I feel. You know, and it's kind of like, there, you just had to make the same choice that I have to make a lot of times. That's what's like, oh, I didn't know, I didn't understand, I didn't experience it.
Going back, you had mentioned that at your speaker trainings, and are they conference format or one day? Can you describe kind of what that process is like for maybe people, because you mentioned anybody could go. You don't necessarily be a speaker at the Bureau, so I think that's great information to share what you would get out of that experience.
And also, I should mention, allies can also come to the training. Great. We do actually have calls sometimes from places that want to hear from an ally perspective. But yeah, so we've typically done a 2-day training, but we're experimenting with a 1-day training this time with slightly different format, and we're going to do like a follow-up later on that's going to kind of take the place of what we're kind of shifting around in the training. Yeah, it's very hard for busy people to take a whole weekend, we have found. Right. And it's been getting harder and harder for people to make that commitment. So we're trying to experiment a little to do the 1-day training. But it is kind of conference-like in the sense that people come in and we do most of the training, or at least the beginning of the training, all together, so that everybody's kind of getting to know each other and getting to know the trainers. But then the second part is done in small groups, so that when we're telling our own stories, learning tips about how to do a better story, that's all in small groups. And then we come back again at the end to, we actually have a mock engagement with the new speakers, the new people who've just tried out their stories, and then you can have that feeling of what it is like, and still people can critique and support.
And it sounds like it's a very, I think that's interesting, you're spacing it out, because it sounds like it is such an intensely emotional experience. Sometimes you need that time to digest it and process it and then come back to it. Any personal, emotional, deep-rooted thing. I find that interesting.
You know,
I hope it's successful.
I hope so too. I hope so. I think it will be.
And you know, you were talking about the need for face-to-face, and as you were talking, have you ever thought of virtual training?
Yes, we have. We've actually talked about different ways of being able to take it outside our community, so that, you know, with taping different things, or through Skyping or whatever, some kind of other way of doing it.
It does definitely change the communication world, because there are the digital interfaces, and we've actually spoken about this before. Part of being here at TV station, a media center, is we're dealing with that every day, but we also have a generation growing up where they really see the world through technology, so it's interesting to see how that might change then the process or the narrative.
You could have your own YouTube channel, but that's really how people are reaching each other, and that, I think, could be really interesting to do something like that. You know, I know that you need that intense connection with each other, but I have so much experience with teaching online that I know you can get that.
At all hours of the day.
Oh, you don't? Oh, she's telling tales.
But you're committed to it. I mean, you stay up late to do that Skype with, so that you get some sort of face-to-face.
And I can see how some of that would be useful. I do think that some of the other things, that intensity and all, really does take a real personal face-to-face stuff. But I can see where some of the some parts of the training could be done in that way.
Are you writing any books?
You're like asking all the hard-hitting questions.
Not yet.
But it's exciting, because it sounds like you could easily do a training manual that you could
we
make.
have a training manual.
But that you could, you know.
But then we could take it out.
Right, because
which we actually used to do.
You used to. Oh, and
years
you stopped?
ago. Well, our organization has gone through many phases in 42 years. Many.
But it's still going on, and it's still strong. And it sounds really wonderful, and I think it's really interesting to hear. It's so much of a process, and not I'm just going to go up and talk. I'm just going to get in front of a camera and talk to you guys. But there is a lot of preparation, and I think that's important, that support network working with each other, developing those stories,
Right.
and then because it takes a lot to change attitudes, and you really have to do it kind of one step
Yes.
at a time.
And I did want to mention that we are always looking for interested people too who would like to come and work in a nonprofit that is doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're looking for new board members if they're interested.
Great.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of things developing in the organization right now. We're going to be redesigning our website. So if that's the kind of thing that you like to do. And also I think we've talked about, you know, whether we would integrate like doing some video
Yeah.
that would come onto the website and other things.
And you have events coming up too.
We do.
We can share with you guys.
Yes, actually,
what are the
I will show
events?
you the lovely card we have. We
And
actually-
it feels nice and silky smooth.
Oh, I got
Yes, it's lovely. It's well done.
I like that. Very nice.
Yeah, so this is an event that we're co-sponsoring.
Yeah, put it up so everybody can see it. That looks
I don't know
great.
if it's probably not close
No,
enough.
I think
but-
it's okay. We'll keep it up like that.
It's called Stories from the B-Side, Bisexual Voices, and we're doing it along with the Cambridge GLBT Commission, the Bisexual Resource Center, and Cambridge Public Library. So it's going to be a really wonderful event. We're going to have a panel. In my other life, I'm also the president of the Bisexual Resource Center. So I'll be sort of doing a little presentation about bisexuality, and then we're going to have a panel of guests who will be telling their own personal stories and responding to questions. And then we'll have a networking time as well. We've invited other LGBT organizations to come, and they'll be spending time in the reception. So they'll be able to connect with other organizations as well.
That's great.
Wonderful.
That's really
well,
great.
I hope it's a very successful event. Thank you for sharing about your
Thank you.
organization, about the work that you do. It's awesome.
Thanks
I'm
for
impressed.
having us.
Oh, we're so
Really.
No, we're really thrilled, and I love hearing about the outreach that you're doing because I think it's really important. I think there's a whole group of people that are really frightened and don't know where to turn, and they have you to turn to. So that's great. So thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you for joining us. As always, you can find other episodes and more information about what we talked about tonight online at brooklineinteractive.org, on Karen's blog, and our Channel 3 Big TV. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Live with a human for a while and you get to know a few things. Like, I know she's actually not a morning person. I know she does strange tricks for no treats. I know that water makes her howl like crazy. I even know how the floor stays so clean. She's quick. But the one thing I will never for the life of me know is how she gets so tiny and inside that box. Natalie, how do you get so tiny?
Welcome back to Lifestyle by Design, helping you solve everyday challenges. My name is Andrea Calso.
And I'm Karen Jacobs.
And we're so excited because, as we said before, we have a lot of friends on the show today. And I'm especially excited for our next friend because it's been a long time coming. We haven't seen each other in a while, so it's a TV show reunion. Big TV style. And I'm very pleased to welcome Dane Chenery to the show. Dane is a seasoned expert at talk shows.
Expert, I don't know, but yeah, seasoned.
But he has been holding his long-standing The Dane Chenery Show here at Big TV, formerly Brookline Access Television when he was here, and at BNN.
Yes.
And so I
In
thought this was
Provincetown, we also air in Cambridge.
Oh, wow.
everywhere.
So we
No
kinda-
idea.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere. And it's wonderful because we had spoken earlier about just the power of storytelling and changing community and attitudes through storytelling. And I was saying it's a bit self-congratulating, but that's what we try to do with these shows. And that's the power of local cable TV, which is why we always encourage our viewers to take advantage of these opportunities, because there is a similar experience here. We're really speaking about experiences. We're talking to interesting people in our communities and the people we know, and bringing it to the next level. And so, Dane, you've done that a lot in your show. So I thought you could tell our viewers, because they may not have been your viewers, about your show, how it got started, and what it was all about.
I'll try to put that in a capsule for you.
All right.
This is going to be our 16th year.
Wow.
So we've been
Yeah.
doing it for quite some time. It started out, I did a show called An Evening with Dane. Someone had read a review for the show and asked if I would do another show for them, which was Primetime Television, which was in a GLBT talk show.
Yeah.
So after that, I said, you know, you're never going to really be able to get the experience that you want unless you produce, unless you produce and host. And so that's what I did. That's
So
what I
you
did.
could be in charge of the content.
The content, the guest, the direction of the show.
Right.
And back when I first started, my show is also GLBT designed.
Right.
And there wasn't a lot of attention given to the GLBT community.
Yeah.
That's gay, lesbian, transgender, and bisexual for those who I've whisked that by. However, I thought that there was a message and there was a story that was being overlooked by what is considered mainstream media. And I wanted to be able to do something here. And that's really the impetus for Outline TV, which was the first name, and now it's the Dane Chenery Show.
Right.
So.
And you've had some really fascinating people on your show. And that's one of the wonderful things is that you sometimes think, you know, oh, can I get that big name or can I get that big politician to come in? You reach out and then they do come. And I remember having those experiences, you know, on the coordination side, wondering, are they going to show up? Are they going to come? Am I, you know, but they do. And it's really great to have that conversation because you can explore. So I'm wondering if you can share maybe like one of your biggest victories in terms of a guest or just a standout, like what really was
memorable.
Yeah, exactly.
Memorable to you, meaningful
so far.
To you.
The most memorable thing is when my mother first saw the show and we sat down and we viewed it together, and she looked at me and she said, "Great job."
Nothing better than that, right?
That, I mean, that's the most memorable of all of the shows that I've done. And
right.
that stuck out, and that was the first thing I said. And it's true.
Yeah.
It was just that kind of, you're on the right track, keep it up.
Yeah.
As far as for guests on the show, Jennifer Holliday, who sang in Dreamgirls.
Oh, yes.
I've had Sheriff Cabral on recently.
Yeah.
I've also, I believe it's when anybody says yes and you're eating up their time and they decide to come and sit down, it's an honor for me.
Right.
That they would take time out of their life to come and sit down and chat for a half hour. So I've gone from Sheriff Cabral to John O'Neill, who is a singer, lyricist, fantastic guy. Who else can I mean, I could go on.
Yeah,
for 16 years.
And I think what's wonderful, and I think what's great about that is there's an outreach component to it, and that you're bringing these people on, you're hearing their stories, their experiences, their lives, their work. But I know that part of your show, you've gone and done events, you've really been involved in the community, and the show has, in a way, I think, been a vehicle, but I think they work together.
It's like which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Sure.
We are and have been for many years the television sponsor for Fenway Community Health men's event and women's dinner party, which I'm honored that we could work together in that kind of fashion with such a great organization. I've done lots of shows about Fenway because I believe in their mission, and designed back when it first came about was for HIV protection and medicine and so on and so forth. And now it's like this huge, you know, internationally recognized organizations. And I mean, I've had everyone from Stephen Boswell, who's the executive director on the show, to we've done shows on GLBT aging, which means I'm on my way there.
I'm there with you.
Get on board, then. Get on board.
What are we going to do, right?
We're just going to enjoy it the best we can.
Absolutely. We're going to live life to its fullest.
I think that's a good idea. Can we all just make a little note about that?
Well, you know what's wonderful too is before we did this show, Karen actually had this show in another life.
Absolutely.
Same name?
Same name.
Yeah.
I heard the name and I said, "Wow, that's a great name."
Thank you. Thank you.
I said, "Yeah, wow,
Thank you.
it's a great name." It says so much about what's out there and what the possibilities.
Right.
It is,
right.
and you know, we have this sort of tagline, you know, helping you solve everyday challenges. And you know, I think that's really important, that we can take control over our lives to do that. And so I actually started Lifestyle by Design a long time ago in the Andover area, and I wanted to promote occupational therapy. So I'm an occupational therapist,
okay,
and I thought using that platform could give visibility. But I'm also a mom, and so
Oh my God, that's a big job there.
Very hard. And so at the time I was starting this, I have 3 kids, but 2 were in junior high school. and one was going into high school.
I'm having a
and-
difficult time believing that that couldn't have been that
Oh,
long ago.
I'm a grandmother. I'm a grandmother too. But anyhow, thank you for that
Congratulations.
compliment. But I wanted something to do with my children as well, and so my youngest daughter, Ariel, was my co-host.
I'm the surrogate now.
Yeah, she's on the surrogate.
I
And
think
my
you've done
son
well
did
on
all
both
the
accounts.
producing, directing, and the technology wasn't there like this. So it was a
Right.
big deal.
What was it on?
Oh, it was so.
VHS?
Yes. So
I remember.
archaic. And, you know, I remember we made our own little poster for our sign.
Yeah, now we have a TV.
It was, yeah, this is so fancy.
Yeah,
We
and,
had
and
the-
it's
and the
actually airing at the same
And
time.
the teleprompter was
Right.
up, and we would read every single word. You
Right.
know, we would be like, okay, and I'd step on someone's line. But we were on for 5 years, and we were similar to what we're doing now, bringing in community,
Okay.
sharing.
Are you still in the same Andover area, or?
Oh no, we haven't gone. We should see if
We're
they
in
want us. We're
Brookline.
in Brookline.
Well, yeah, that's where
We're
we are.
excited, and we're on YouTube. And who even
Yeah.
thought of YouTube?
Oh,
so
amazing.
the
Yeah.
visibility. But I think what makes this so great, obviously, Andrea and I are of different ages. Who's younger? No, I'm just teasing.
I was going to say you.
Oh.
However,
Anyhow, I think there's a difference. But I love this.
the different
I think
the different areas of expertise that you both
Right.
bring it
Sure.
together.
Right.
Go on.
But we complement each other, and it's really fun because we can have conversations. We have friends and interests that are different, but friends and interests that are the same.
Yeah.
And
How
that's
did you two meet?
Rotary.
Through Brookline Rotary.
I'm
Really?
a Rotarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I learned about Rotary on my cable show. And it was in Andover.
So we've come full circle.
Full circle.
And,
It's so
and for the
great.
sake of continuing the meta conversation, I think, Dane, one of the reasons I really wanted to bring you back on the show is there is this sort of like synergy to you.
Well, just sitting with
The
you two
word.
ladies, I'm feeling synergy.
I want to come on your
Right.
show.
But about
That's what we'll
about
do.
the community of cable TV and cable access, and that it has a long history, but it's very much still alive and present. And I think, you know, we say it on the show, but it's really empowering to come and have your show. And so, you know, we say it all the time, but I think it's great to have someone else talk about their experiences and share that, because it's only as relevant as however many people are involved, watching, and continuing the conversation and getting involved in the conversation. And it is at that community level, sharing stories, changing attitudes, and having fun and meeting new people. And so I really appreciate that you were able to come on the show and bring that dimension to it. And I'm very excited for the Dane Sherry Show to return and to see all of the wonderful things.
We
that it
plan to
has
do
to
that. I mean, we really, that is the motivating factor to kind of, there's so many other stories, I think.
Yeah.
As you
Absolutely.
both know.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
No, they're great. And you know, as we're concluding this, you brought back memory lane for me. And this week, I lost a friend who was on my cable
sorry to hear
TV
that.
show for a very long time. And so I'd love to just say, in memory of Rochelle Godaly, it's really special. She was very meaningful. She was a dietitian, and on the cable show when we were doing this, she would come on the show and teach us about healthy eating and nutrition and things like that. So she passed this week, and I want to honor her with her passing.
That's wonderful.
It sounds like your relationship was really very strong. So.
It was, and we hadn't seen each other in years because she moved. But her husband and friends reconnected virtually, and so it's nice, you know, it's a nice memory lane. I have such great memories.
And she worked on the show with you. I mean, that's a big thing. That
So it's-
anybody who puts in any of their time to help with a show like, it's amazing.
It's so meaningful. So
Yeah, my
so
God.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And in memory of Gail, that's
Rochelle.
Rochelle. Sorry, Rochelle.
Godaly.
And thank you for joining us again. You can find more information about our show on brooklineinteractive.org, on Karen's blog, and on Channel 3. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.